Welcome back to the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. When Mike Duggan became Detroit's mayor, the city was struggling. It was 2013. Detroit was attempting to emerge from bankruptcy and emergency management. Now, over 10 years later, things look a little different in the city. Blight isn't as much of an issue. Community intervention groups have reduced crime, and certain neighborhoods have seen a lot of investment. But problems remain. Detroit's school district is behind on reading and math scores. Absenteeism is really high. Housing prices have skyrocketed. Most renters are cost-burdened. Public transit is too unreliable, and auto insurance is still very expensive. Enter Fred Durhal III, the former State House representative and council member for residents on Detroit's West Side, has plans. Mostly, the mayoral candidate wants to build. His reforms include cutting taxes and red tape when necessary, creating more so-called main streets, and creating more housing. Also expanding Detroit's development authority to Midtown, Corktown, and to Gratiot near Eastern Market. Durhal wants more thriving business corridors, more Detroit enterprises, and more city residents. What are in the details of his plans, and what might be the consequences of his proposals? As we continue our coverage of the Detroit mayoral race ahead of the November election, District 7 council member and mayoral candidate Fred Durhal III joins us now. He represents part of Detroit's West Side. Council member Durhal, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So tell me, why are you running to be Detroit's next mayor?
We're running to be Detroit's next mayor because we are in a very pivotal moment here in our city's history. As you articulated earlier, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth over the past decade, but it's going to be really important to continue that growth. And in order to continue that growth, you're going to need experienced leadership. As you talk about some of the issues that still plague the city of Detroit, whether that is high property taxes, whether that is auto insurance, whether it's that's finding sustainable sources to fund public safety and continue to make our residents safer. A lot of those roads lead through Lansing and getting state funding. And for us, that was one of the reasons we decided to run. We're the only candidate in this race that has served on the state level of government, 2 terms in the Michigan legislature, and now on the Detroit City Council. And so we felt that we can utilize our experience and expertise to continue to move Detroit forward.
And I do want to look back at how your experience in Lansing can help to inform your potential role leading the city. But I also want to look back at something else, at Mayor Duggan's time in office. I want to look back at that before we look forward. You've been a city council member since 2021, partly while Mike Duggan has been mayor. He's done a lot during his time in office, especially tearing down blight, adding speed bumps, getting lights on, reducing crime, and transforming downtown and Midtown. What do you think he's done best while in office?
Well, I think he has helped to work and stabilize some of our neighborhoods. Been a very strong partner of the mayor over these past 4 years serving on council, because I do believe our visions aligned relative to the neighborhoods and some of the goals that I had specifically for my district. And so as you look at my district now, which we're very proud of the work that we've been able to do there. I came into a district that had 0 recreation centers. Now we have 2. One, a $20 million recreation center in partnership with the Detroit Pistons. Another one, an $8.5 million recreation center that's getting built on Dexter Avenue. We've revitalized streetscapes, torn down some of the abandoned homes and structures within that district. But we also had some development there. There were no jobs when I came in, and now we have created and rehabbed the old AMC site, which is now an automotive supplier for GM. So I think he's done a really good job of helping grow the city economically. Of course, that's in partnership with our Detroit City Council. but also affordable housing, I think, has come a very long way in the city of Detroit, even though it still has a long way to go.
This has me wondering what you make overall of Duggan's leadership style and if you plan to tweak it if you were to become mayor.
Absolutely. I've been a firm believer that each public servant should have, one, their own conscience, two, their own plans and how they roll that out. For me, we will lead kind of with the mind state of an executive, but a legislator as well, because we've been on that other side of the coin.
What does that mean to lead as a legislator as well?
So when we talk about legislators who are elected by the people, and in our cases, specific districts, we do have 2 at-large members. You are there every single day when you get constituent complaints. You are more present, boots on the ground in the daily lives of the residents, but you also help to make policy and you have to approve policy. And so I think it's very important for the next mayor to have a great relationship with the city council, but again, also legislators in Lansing understanding how they think, how they work, to be able to deliver resources as well as policy here for the city of Detroit. And so our style will be a little bit different. We'll be more aggressive in Lansing, and we'll spend a lot more time in Lansing working to deliver those resources back here to the city of Detroit that we desperately need.
That sounds like a tall order, because when we think about the slogan Detroit versus everybody, nowhere else in the state could that feel clearer, stronger, or truer than in Lansing. Oftentimes it really does feel like a Detroit versus everybody. How can you confront that?
Well, I'm known for building coalitions. I served as the assistant Democratic leader of the House in my first term and the ranking Democrat on House Appropriations my second term. During that time, there was a Republican trifecta. Rick Snyder was the governor. We had a Republican House and a Republican Senate. But I was still able to deliver for the city of Detroit, helping secure over $1 billion for revenue sharing, police, fire, EMS, city services, able to save vital programs like the DAPSEP program, Meals on Wheels, Flip the Script. But working in a collaborative effort, having the ability to cross the aisle, build partnerships when the opportunities presented itself, and still deliver here. So for me, it's not a daunting task. How we tackle that is being very pragmatic, understanding that different legislators have different perspectives based off of the area in which they were elected to, and try to come as close to the middle as possible and meet on some of the ideas that we have. And so we've been very skilled at that over the past 10 years or in my career, and we'll continue to do that.
I want to go back to something that you alluded to when you talk about governing as a legislator, and that is this very important part of the democratic process, which is accountability, being accountable to people, to voters, to constituents. How will you make yourself accountable to the people of Detroit?
Yeah, I've been known to be a very accessible legislator or public servant. Everyone in my district that I come in contact with has my personal cell phone number. I've been doing that for a very long time, even as a state representative. We host a policy session to talk specifically about what policy is, how policy moves. We talk about tax abatements, we talk about incentives, and we bring that to the public. I host a coffee hour every month. Right now, as mayor, one of the things that I want to do and I'm going to commit to is holding like these fireside chats each week.
Very FDR style.
Very FDR style, but FCD style, right? Or FD3 style. But, hosting these fireside chats where we allow folks to come, not just when there's a mandated charter meeting for the mayor in different districts, but every week, being out there, hearing the residents, having that face out there so they feel that we're listening, even if they don't agree with some of the initiatives that we may push forward. I think folks want to see that level of transparency. They want to see that level of accountability. They want to see you present. And we'll give them the opportunity to state their grievances, in real time on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to make sure that they know they are being heard.
One more point I'd like to address before we look forward at more of your policy proposals. I want to look back once more at Mayor Duggan. Because for as transformational as he's been for the city of Detroit, he also has made some mistakes. During his time, DDOT, Detroit's public transit system, shrank, especially after the first few terms he was in office. He also advocated for changes to the state's auto insurance policy, but car insurance is still really expensive for Detroiters. What do you think Duggan has struggled to do most?
Yeah, I think again, what has been difficult is just navigating Lansing, and I won't say that is part of his fault or leadership style, because he's delivered some things from Lansing for the city of Detroit. But it is difficult again if you're not a legislator to sometimes understand those legislators that are there. But I would say even one of the things that he talked about the most, and now we hear him talking as he's running for governor, because he's a turnaround guy. We've seen him do that in many places he's been. But education has been something here in the city of Detroit that we haven't focused on. Now, in all fairness, that is not the duty of the mayor. But we do have to have a better communication, a better bridge between our city government and our school system. You talk about the Detroit Promise, which is an amazing program that will allow children in our school system to go to college for free if they graduate with a 2.5 grade point average. We could have done a better job putting that out there, trying to connect parents to those resources as well to ensure that a lot of our kids knew that path and knew that it existed.
I want to jump in on that actually, because I was formerly an education reporter, and something that I heard from too many high school students in Detroit, they didn't even know what Detroit Promise is. So to your point of getting it out there more, how do you engage with young people more? And what kind of mayor do you want to be when it comes to education? Because as you have rightly noted, Mayor Duggan has been quite hands-off when it comes to K through 12 education in the city of Detroit.
Yeah, I would say fairly, again, as a mayor, and if you are not on the state level or on the school board, tackling education issues or touching educational issues are often looked at as the third rail, that if you touch it, that you will pretty much be electrocuted by the public. Especially
when we consider the history in Detroit
Correct.
Of mayoral control and emergency management, with which Detroit schools are still reeling a bit from the trauma of that.
Yeah, the trauma still exists. And, as a parent, I will tell you, if you want to hear somebody get very emotional, talk about an issue that's relative to their kids. But I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity now to bridge that gap. When we talk about building the city of Detroit for the future, education is a huge component to that. People move to neighborhoods for good schools, and they move there for jobs as well, and because it's safe, but schools play a part. When we talk about how do we retain the population that we have to ensure those folks who are here, they stay here, we've got to make sure we have world-class educational systems here so folks are not trying to leave the city and enroll somewhere else. But when we also talk about what this city is going to look like relative to workforce, relative to public safety, because all of these things are interconnected, education is going to be that key focal point. So in our administration, one of the things that we are going to do, we're going to tackle education, even though it's the third rail, but we're going to work in a very collaborative effort with the superintendent, the DPS-CD school board, our charter schools, our unions, parents, teachers, and our public and private partners to ensure that we're providing the resources that we need, but also creating a path for our young folks at an earlier age. You've heard me on this campaign say, I want to create a path that leads to colleges and careers and not cages and caskets here for our students. And so we're going to do that. So by the time they graduate from 12th grade, they know if they're going to be an entrepreneur, they know if they're going to be going to college, or they know they're going to be a member of our skilled trades. We'll be very focused on that.
Let's pivot, if we could, to something that is certainly connected to education, because education is connected to everything, and that's housing. I want to talk about your proposed policies. You want to have a blight tax. What does that tax look like?
Yeah, so our blight tax looks like we're going to charge folks who are in non-owner occupied structures 25 times what the property tax millage is if they are contributors to blight in our city. When I go around the city of Detroit, and I've done now multiple house parties, even on this campaign trail, talking to residents in our neighborhoods, blight still remains a huge issue. And whether that's blight in the neighborhoods or that's blight on the commercial corridors that are adjacent to their neighborhoods, folks are tired of it. And so we do have a blight system now where if you have a violation, you get a blight ticket. But it's pretty much a slap on the wrist, particularly for those who own multiple structures throughout the city of Detroit. I'm going to be very aggressive here on blight and ensure that we send a strong message that if you come into our city, you want to do business in our city, you want to live in our city, you want to own property in our city, you have to keep it up, because we are tired of hearing neighbors who are in those neighborhoods for non-owner occupied structures saying they're the ones that are cutting the grass, they're the ones cutting the weeds, and they're the ones that have to live with that around them and even in their commercial corridors. So as we charge 25 times more, we'll have the ability to generate revenue, but it'll also feed into our other part of our plan when we talk about cutting property taxes for Detroit residents.
And that's a break of $400 to $600 for homeowners. Is that right?
Yeah, we're hoping to see relief of $400 to $600 to start with for relief for our property tax owners, each year on their property taxes.
You also want to hold speculators accountable in the last couple minutes we have here. And that's someone who purchases land or property primarily to flip it for profit, typically without investing in its maintenance or improvement. How do you hold them accountable?
Yeah, we're going to hold them accountable by charging more. I'm unapologetic in saying that we're going to charge them more and put more money back into the pockets of our residents. For folks who, again, are speculating on land or have underdeveloped land. When you look here in the city of Detroit, there are folks that come into our neighborhoods and buy multiple houses, and they don't even live in the state of Michigan, and some of them don't even live in the country. And so, they're not keeping these houses up. They're not allowing for opportunity for families to move into those homes. And the same thing on our commercial corridors as we talk about spawning development, then there's no contiguous structures where folks can come in and buy them together and start to develop those areas. And so, yes, we are going to hold speculators accountable by charging them more, dropping the property tax millage by 19.5 mils for our Detroit residents to put money back into their pockets. Here in the city of Detroit, just to give you a quick example, if you own a flat lot parking surface, you're generating $2 to $3 million a year, but you're paying less in property taxes than our homeowners. We're not going to have that. We're going to level the playing field and create an equitable tax system.
In the last 20 seconds we have here, day one, what is your first priority in office?
Yeah, day one, our first priority in office, we are going to establish what they call corridor improvement authorities through multiple areas in the city of Detroit to create main streets, and we're going to have that strategic plan rolled out.
Council Member Fred Durhal III is a candidate for Detroit Mayor. Council Member Durhal, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thank you.
The primary election is August 5th. The top two vote getters will move on to the general election in November. We've spoken with several of the candidates. To hear those conversations, head to our website at WDET.org. Coming up, WDET's What's So Funny About Detroit comedy event is happening tomorrow at the Old Miami in Detroit. We'll hear from the headliner of that event in just about 7 minutes. This is the Metro on WDET, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.